Good morning! At the desk this morning we are going to be looking at the Revenge wing and also the WRA Spec Wing, which you may have not seen the unboxing, which there's a link to that in the top right hand corner. Now those of you which join in for the live unboxing, you'll remember that there was one little point which I noticed on other Dave's and also Richard's build, which I didn't like, and it was so minor, but I'm going to show you what I did on mine. So that minor point was around the top servo, okay, specifically the top servo wire. And you will notice once this thing sits down and I'll zoom in, is that you'll notice on this build is that we have no servo wire across the top, although Matty did make a few mistakes over there with a bit of hot glue. By the way, yes, I do put the servos in with hot glue because that does make a really nice fit in there, and again it means I can get the servo back out again if I need to by putting some methylated spirits in there. Anyway, so what have I been and done? Underneath you'll notice that there's two shiny lines. Okay, so the first line at the top is the line of an extra piece of carbon strip which I've been put in. So this is 5mm by 1mm. This is pretty much exactly the same carbon fibre which was provided with the WRA Spec Wing, but I had some in stock here, and I've been put a piece all the way across that leading edge, again just to add extra rigidity. I know that I'm going to be hitting stuff really hard and really fast with this model and doing silly stuff, so as such I've put an extra bit of carbon strip in the front leading edge of this model. You probably do not need to do that to yours. Anyway, getting back to the servo wire, this other line just here is that what I did is just put the Stanley or the craft knife all the way along, and I've tucked the cable in and it's just popping out there on the end. Now when it came to the servo placement is that there's a sheet down there with the servo placement on, but I did not take any notice of that at all. What I did for simplicity is, maybe Matt should have tidied his desk up a touch beforehand, but hey ho, hindsight is beautiful. What I did is that I got just some masking tape, bigger bit than that, and what I did, I just put that down the side, and then I put this piece into the side of the wing. Okay, well that's the wrong piece, but you know what I'm doing. I marked out where the hole was. Once I knew where the hole was, I just put a mark in the centre of it like that, and then got a set square. And what I did, and you can tell that the hole was down there, what I kind of worked out is where I wanted the wire to pop out, which was, say, there, is that then I worked out where I wanted the servo to go. And the easiest way of doing that, with no complicated measurements or anything like that, is that I just used a set square. So I'm just using my hand here to hold this against here. I put another piece of masking tape where the servo wanted to be, or where I wanted the servo to be, rested it in there, and then just held that down with one hand on the desk, and then got a craft knife and then went round the outside of the servo and cut the hole out. And of course that then meant it was completely repeatable for the other side. All I had to do was just put the two wing halves together like so, mark off where that mark was, and then just turn the set square the other way round and then rinse and repeat, which was literally that. And then just place the servo on that side. Very, very simple and easily repeatable. So both those servos are in exactly the same place on both wings, all because of just keeping it really, really simple, using a set square, same line in same places, and that's happy days. So yeah, I didn't use their servo template. I know it's a good idea, and I thumbs up for them including that in the kit, but I thought it would be simpler doing this one. Again, you could get the paper on a twist and things like that, and again that servo isn't the same size as my servo, whereas the holes which I cut were perfect. And then to get the wire to go through, I just stabbed the knife through, stuck a screwdriver in it just to make it a little bit bigger, and we went from there. So that's the wings so far. Now there was a little note from James Hurd that maybe we should be sanding down this outside edge. To be honest, James, I think, well, number one, I think you've picked up a valid point. That would definitely help aerodynamically. On the second point, I'm not going to bother doing that on mine. The reason being is that it's just going to make it a million times easier just to laminate. And also, I don't think this model's going to last me very long, because I fully intend to give its full knacker through trees, and you've seen the trees which we fly through. So yeah, I'm not going to invest too much time in this model for things which are minor. Instead, what I am going to do is focus time on doing the strengthening pieces, so extra carbon in the leading edges. I did use yoo-hoo pour to stick the sides on with extras. And I did right inside. I was really worried about getting these the wrong way round. Maybe gluing on the wrong way round. They did warp a little bit when gluing. As you can see, that tail is kicking out just there. I'm sure that will sort itself out when I glue the centre section in. And I did put a lot of weight on these to try and hold them flat, but obviously it wasn't enough. Okay, so that was a bit of frustrating. But everything, by the way, which I've covered so far on the build of at least the Revenge wing has been really straightforward. So we're just talking like a bit of glue and a bit of wood, stick some batteries on it and let it set. And over here, all I've done is just use the set square and cut the servo in, and then just run the wire on the bottom. And yes, it does mean that I'll need to use servo extensions, but hey ho. And I have put an extra bit of carbon in the leading edge. Nothing has been complicated at all about this build. Now that brings us nicely on to the also non-complicated piece, and actually my one thing which I'd like to say, I would like to give like a bit as a feedback or a suggestion back to Flying Wings, is that I am a little bit worried about this model getting smashed up in the nose. So as such, you may or may not have already spotted that I've been and put some carbon rod in the bottom edge of the fuselage. Okay, so at least we have a little bit of extra strength this way to perhaps try and relieve some of the stress on the plywood frame itself. Now, my one tip, or my one piece of constructive criticism, or one piece of feedback, should I say, for Flying Wings, the people who made this model, is that it's actually one very simple tip, and I think it would be very easy for them to do, and it includes one extra part in the kit, and it's not expensive. We're only talking about a piece of plywood. And what my suggestion is that I would like to see a plywood floor here. Okay, so a piece of plywood which sits in on top of here, and then on the piece of plywood we've got a couple of teeth, maybe 2 or 3 teeth pointing out the sides, which are then registration marks into this fuselage panel here. So if you think about it, it's just like a motor, like a normal motor mount when you've got the teeth which stick together. So you could glue in a piece of plywood in here, okay, line it up on there, and then when you sit it in, you've got holes in this back piece of plywood so that you know that this motor mount or this centre part of the fuse section is in exactly the right place. So that's my one piece of feedback, and the reason why I'm suggesting that feedback to them is because it's going to be a little bit tricky trying to hold these parts in exactly the right place, and I'm going to put some pressure on here to get it flat on the front for the nose, like so. Apologies for the wobbly camera. To hold it on there and get this back piece down at the same time. And the bit which you cannot see is that, can you just see, let me just hold that there a second, there's a line there and a line there, is because it's warped a little bit. So a piece of plywood in there, again, it would just great, it would just like slot in, glue along the edge, happy days. And of course then you could put the other piece on top and then you know it's going in exactly the right spot. So that's my one piece of constructive feedback for the model itself. That said, it's not going to be no biggie to glue these on. Like, I can soldier on, you know, without it. So yeah, that's the build so far. That's it. There is a nice big hole at the back. That's where I'll be mounting the ESC. I have pulled this motor, this ESC out, so that will get mounted up here somehow in the back to try and ensure that it gets maximum airflow for it. And that's as far as I've been and got with the Revenge kit. So yeah, so far really impressed. It's not a complex build on a scale of complexity, just because you've got to hold a few parts in the right places while the glue's setting off, or it might be that little bit is a little bit trickier than perhaps what it could have been. On like a scale of 1 to 10, this is not a hard model to build. You're only talking like a 5, and I think I'm being like a fair out of that one, because you do want to go on and laminate it. So maybe a 5 or 6 so far on the build of complexity. It's not hard at all. The parts are really quite straightforward to put together. Right, let's talk about the Spec Wing, and I have no idea what I've been and done with that. She is here somewhere. Oh, I put her right there out of the way. So last night I glued the wings together. Okay, so all I did was put lots of pins in the middle. I used E6000 glue in the middle. And you'll notice that I've got the craft knife holding down the motor mount, a couple of pins in there. The motor mount I put together with some yoo-hoo pour. except for the back motor mount, which I used an E6000. Again, I wanted a rubberized joint there. The side panels are fine to be used by thew pull because that's a contact adhesive. But the actual motor mount itself, the bit which is going to get all the vibrations, I've used E6000 in there because it is a rubberized glue. On the underside of the wing, that's all I've done so far. And there is a bit of a split down the middle, so Matt even didn't do his perfect, but it's only me and you which can see that, so well, shh, don't tell anybody. I've put the carbon fibre strips in, again E6000 glue which was used for that. I will go in a moment, just because I've just been spotted how big that gap is, I will just go in there and squeeze some E6000 glue in the middle and let that set off later this morning. And then we are into battery, servo and motor territory. Again, trying to keep the weight down on this model. I will be trying to keep the servos. I won't be trying to put any servo extensions. I won't be trying to put anything smart with servo placement, perhaps trying to get them in the center of the wings. I will just go as far as the servo connectors will allow me. Get the receiver, say, sat in here, the FPV transmitter on one side, and the battery in here as well, crossways, so wherever that fits. And also remember, I've got a 3D a camera mount to fit in the nose as well. I'll put a link to that in the video description. It is a 3D printable camera mount, and again, I'll be putting a Runcam Swift Mini in there. Again, if I was absolutely obsessed about weight, then I would use one of the micro Runcam cameras in the nose, but in this case I need someone which is strong, because I know that just like the Revenge Wing, this one is going to take repeated smashes in the ground. So anyway, come back to my point. Very, very simple build. Very simple. It's all been just glue and go so far. Again, build complexity is in the 5 range because this model does go on and need to be laminated. Also remember, you are going to be you're going to need to work out where your servos are going to be going to. Perhaps that was something which I maybe should have done beforehand. Oops. So that adds a little slightly extra layer of complexity. This isn't one of those plug and play kits where the servos are already installed or there's holes for servos. You choose where your servo goes in the wing, which by the way should be exactly 90 degrees to the actual surface for maximum deflection. So anyway, that's the progress of the Spec Wing, coming along very, very nicely. Again, we're only talking 1, maybe 2 day builds when you're just waiting for glue to set, you know. There's something complicated here. It's all basic build stuff. And the Revenge Wing, I am in a moment just going to go on and get this glued up. Very straightforward. Of course, the spire will go for the main part of the fuselage, and that will just take lots of E6000 glue to stick it in there. So yeah, very, very simple, and both these models in their construction. And with that said, for myself, Matt, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for taking the time to watch this episode. Remember, these models were bought out of my own money for my own abuses. And as such, if you have any questions or comments about these, please just ask down in the comments section underneath this video, or maybe nip across to the Facebook group. There's a link to that in the video description. Just press show more and all the details are in there. I have also, before I go, I have kind of decided that I will be going for the Turnigy D3536 1450 kV motor. I have decided to go with that one. I think that's going to be a great starter motor. Again, the prop side's not massive. We're only going to be talking about an 8x4, 8x6 propeller on the back. So it should be really hauling arse with that kind of motor on the back. So yeah, that's the progress so far. So what more's to be said? Don't forget to press subscribe. This is a little journey of the build on that. I'm not really into build videos. You may have guessed that. I'm quite happy to do and share with you a build overview. I think there's enough value in that so that you get like the basics right, if that makes sense. And if there is a little oddity or maybe a little bit of feedback, like I mentioned about the plywood plate in the bottom of the model, I think that's constructive feedback. I will include that. But besides that, like I said, really straightforward builds, nothing complicated here at all. It is glue with a little bit of prior planning, which Matt should maybe prior planned, but his servos are going. And of course, remember, I always try and do my best to leave the mistakes in, like I should have put the servos in before I glued the wing together, so that you can learn from them. So as always, from myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode. I'll see you again shortly. Cheerios!